terror striking on the eve of Thanksgiving, President Trump is vowing an immigration crackdown after a horrific attack in D.C., a permanent pause on migration from third world countries. It comes after 2 National Guard members were ambushed while on patrol near the White House. Right now, charges against the Afghan national accused of shooting them have been upgraded to first-degree murder after 20-year-old Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom died of her injuries. And the other victim, Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, is fighting for his life while in critical condition. He is 24. The pure evil suspect accused of doing this allegedly drove across the country, then laid in wait for hours before opening fire. And now troubling questions are being raised about his vetting after it was revealed that he entered the United States in 2021 under Biden's Operation Allied Welcome program during America's chaotic exit from Afghanistan. Trump giving the media a photographic refresher of the chaos.
I have a picture of a plane. This is what it looked like when they came in. It was total bedlam. Do you remember that period of time? Total bedlam. People crammed onto the plane. And this atrocity reminds us that we have no greater national security priority than ensuring that we have full control over the people that enter and remain in our country.
President Trump then scolding a reporter for asking this question.
U.S. officials say that the suspect worked very closely with the CIA in Afghanistan for years, that he was vetted, and the vetting came up clean.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people.
Your DOJ IG just reported this year that there was thorough vetting by DHS and by the FBI of these Afghans who were brought into the U.S. So why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let them in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? You're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. When it comes to asylum, when they're flown in, it's very hard to get them out. No matter how you want to do it, it's very hard to get them out. But we're going to be getting them all out now.
And right on cue, the left is seemingly blaming Trump for the tragedy because he deployed the National Guard to D.C. The New Yorker's Jane Mayer tweeting, "This is so tragic, so unnecessary. These poor guardsmen should never have been deployed. I live in D.C. and watched as they had virtually nothing to do but pick up trash. It was for political show, and at what a cost." And others are weighing in.
The uniform is politics extended into the public space.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, 2 West Virginia National Guard soldiers who had nothing to do with this person, they did not ask to be deployed in this way, and their military members, by and large, want to be left out of the politics.
Those 2 families are going to be sitting at home saying, should they have been there in the first place?
The president looks everywhere except inward to blame his own policies. We need to make sure that we don't have our military deployed in our cities. It's never the president's fault or his policies when it comes to his reaction, and it's pretty disgusting.
It's such a shame, Paul, that immediately the knee-jerk reaction from the liberal left is one to blame the president, whose only goal and only priority has been the safety of Americans. He did not politicize uniforms. He recognized that the uniforms stand for only the flag.
Yeah, it didn't take long, did it? Couple of things here. First of all, this is like blaming aspirin for your headache, right? Because he's putting them out there to try to deter crime. And the thing that they never talk about is that it's working. And there's nothing funnier to me than when the left decides all of a sudden that they are in support of the people in uniform. You know, they're nuancing this here. It took the New York Times about 5 seconds to come up with the line that the reason he did this is because he lost his mind because of what we exposed him to in Afghanistan. So implicitly, it's our fault. Look, let's just expand the story real quick. First of all, this is going to go to a death penalty case. It's likely going to be terrorism. So we'll see how to run. Let's get that part out of the way. Secondly here, we are in a post-interventionist world. That's really, for me, the lesson here, okay? The world is very, very small. We need to learn that we can go into these nations, and we had to after 9/11, all right? We have to recognize the Taliban had incubated al-Qaeda, UBL was there, we had to go in. We go in, we want to break things and kill the people that killed our people, and then that's it. all right? Otherwise, don't get involved, because what do we get for it other than blame? And so we can't go in and try to fix everything. This is not post-World War II America. You can't run, we don't have that. Every nation in history that has failed, any empire, we're not an empire, we're not looking to take places over and make them part of America. But that said, history teaches us they've all failed because of overreach. We're not going to run Afghanistan into a democracy. They don't have the infrastructure. And as for vetting goes, that's the point. You can't go into a place that's operating in the 7th century and say, you know what, we vetted these people. You don't know who you're talking to. This is the guy's second cousin. He wants this guy to go to America because he wants the checks to come back. I've seen this. He wants the check to go back home, where his checks from wherever he's working can support an entire village. So you can't vet these guys. There's no computers. There's no central database. The point is you can't do it. And so as a result, we shouldn't do it. And we have to recognize it's time to retrench at home. I'm not saying Fortress America. You have to be engaged. The world is too small. But once you get involved here, all we get is blame, and we end up in situations like this because the plum we hold out is, if you help us in country, we'll bring you here. That's the carrot that everybody around the world wants. They want to be here. And when we do that, we put ourselves in this position.
And Charlie, all right, let's look at what we inherited. So to Paul's point, it was difficult to vet. Well, the Biden administration didn't even give it a decent shot whatsoever. I spoke with Jessica Vaughn, who said it wasn't Operation Allies Welcome. It was Operation Everyone Welcome. Yeah. The whole point was that there was a not even attempt to recognize that our real allies needed to be here. And clearly we let in an unimaginable number of ones who shouldn't. And even if there's just one, that one is the one that engaged in murder. So the question is, to Paul's point, though, you know, the biggest challenge is not only the sheer volume, but also the fact that we're dealing with a lack of veracity on any front. We don't know the real names. We don't have a type of authority that we can count on to double check anything. So we now have inherited potentially an incendiary device that is still within our country in the form of thousands of individuals.
Yeah, it's not like the Taliban has a database that we're going to use to identify who's safe to come into our country and who's not. I don't know what is worse, whether you let 70,000 people, which is about how many people we had come in under this program, into the country without vetting them, or having maybe vetted them and they let this guy into the country. I don't know which is worse. I think they're both really bad. On a political point, I think that Democrats are in a real bind here, trying to blame Trump for this, because it's pretty cold solace to say, well, you know, they had it coming because they were deployed. Well, I mean, are you kidding me? Are you going to actually make that argument in front of voters? And do you think that that's a winning argument? I don't think it is. I think every single one of the people that has been deployed, including these two service members, they've saved lives. If you look at the statistics in D.C., in Chicago, and we can have a great debate about whether or not we should use military soldiers to enforce laws in these cities, and that's a fine debate to have. But you can't deny that every single one of those people walking around has managed to save lives in the places where they have been deployed. There are a lot of questions looking forward, and these are the things that I'm most concerned about. Is there going to be a thorough vetting now that we recognize that the vetting either didn't work or they didn't do it? Also, this guy was living, according to the New York Post, in a $2,000 a month apartment, speaking very poor English at best, playing video games. What was he doing? Yeah. Did he have a job? Are taxpayers the ones that are on the hook for paying for his rent and paying? What else were we paying for? I want to get to the bottom of all of that.
Yeah. And Kat, I wanted to ask you about, so we've talked about the blame game, that people are blaming the president. But there was also a really disheartening amount of sitting senators and others who were blaming National Guardsmen. We had Dick Durbin saying that National Guardsmen were terrorizing U.S. cities. Alyssa Slotkin saying that they were going to shoot Americans. Is that kind of rhetoric potentially what leads to someone taking a gun all the way across the country and taking it out on National Guardsmen?
Well, this is what politicians always do, right? And this man who did this was obviously evil. I believe President Trump called him an animal. I think that's the perfect word for him. I think just widening out, I would like to see accountability. overall. I think that there's a huge lack of accountability, particularly, I mean, in this specific instance, mistakes were made. You know, this guy was not just here. He was at one point being paid by the United States government. Who signed off on that? Do they still have a job? Probably, but they probably shouldn't. And I see this as just one small piece of decades of things that have gone wrong in Afghanistan that there's been no accountability for. While we were over there, then of course this disastrous joke of a withdrawal. As all of you guys know, my husband fought in Afghanistan. That was a very, very difficult time for him and for a lot of the other people who were over there. And we have this. So when it comes to this stuff, I would like to see less of a politically motivated kind of blame game of, well, it was this side did this and this, and an actual real search for actual accountability. Because we have people who make mistake after mistake that costs lives and people die. And the people responsible keep their jobs. And not only do they keep their jobs, we don't even know who they are half the time. And this is going back decades and decades. I don't have a lot of hope of this ever happening because people get so lost in the politics of it all. But I, for one, am disgusted. And I think that we are long owed some answers on this stuff.
Yeah, and for me, the vehicle of the lack, or driving the train toward lack of accountability is in large part the mainstream media. Just today, Reuters saying the president claims without evidence that the vetting program did not work. Isn't the evidence Sarah Beckstrom?
Absolutely. And can we talk about her for a second?
Please.
20 years old. She joined the military police with the hopes of having a career in the FBI. Her former boyfriend, Adam Carr, described her as a caring and tender-hearted woman. She was known to enjoy nature, road trips, spending time with her family. She was not eager at first to go to D.C. and be a part of the troops patrolling, but she said that she started to like it. She was using her time to visit museums and memorials and making the most of her new environment. 20 years old and gone.
And notice, the judge in D.C. comes down and says, I know she stayed the order, but she said, these are illegal deployments. Notice she didn't say, oh, you know what? Alyssa Slotkin told me I can disobey this. Right. She was out there.
Right.
Right. Oh, just tragic.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.